All right, people. Midweek report time. Let's just start with news that broke in the last hour. Now, a few days ago, I did a video on Canelo Alvarez, and I talked about his September date. And basically, in that video, I talked about the two opponents that were being named as potential opponents for Canelo Alvarez. And I was like, ugh, I don't really want to see either of them. And that was Jamal Charlo and Edgar Berlanga. Now, I felt that Berlanga, that was at least for me anyway, that was a fairly slam dunk win for Canelo, if it happened. Same with Charlo, although I thought with Charlo it might be a bit more of a dull affair because Charlo, former champion, yes, former two weight division world champion, yes, but he's been very inactive over the last few years. He hasn't looked good even in his comeback fight. He's not fought a really top class caliber opponent. Well, if you class the Repchenko as in a really, really top class, then it's been 4 years. And he's had so many issues outside the ring. I think even this year, I think that was why he got stripped from by the BBC. That you just look at that and think, okay, that's a recipe for disaster right there. Now, according to ESPN, apparently Canelo Alvarez versus Eubank Jr. is reportedly now in negotiations, and it's claimed this fight is the front runner to happen next. So I think that's something. I only did a video on Eubank Jr. the other day saying he's effed his career up. And, you could still say that he sort of has this fight taken out of the equation. He's been inactive. He never pushed on from the Liam Smith win in a timely manner. Seemed like he was waiting for Conor Benn, that situation, to resolve itself. And now you could say the best of a bad bunch. I mean, again, Eubank Jr. is somewhat arguing, and they'd be right to argue it, in fairness, that it's kind of on par realistically with Berlanga and Charlo, but at least Eubank is more of a name, certainly on this side of the pond. He's not really a name in America, to be honest with you, but it would gain a lot of interest from this side of the pond anyway. Eubank versus Canelo. It would have to be at 168 pounds. Eubank has campaigned there briefly, but he has campaigned there, and that really would be, because for me, it's only really when I did that video on Eubank Jr. I started really thinking, like, realistically, he's waiting for that Conor Benn. It seems like Eubank Jr. at this point now, he might say he's looking to push for world titles and stuff, but I think he's kind of resigned himself to the fact that that's not going to happen. And it almost seems now that Eubank Jr., he's probably waiting for that one last massive payday to sail off into the sunset with, which he would have got if he'd fought Conor Benn, or if they were able to get that fight done even last year. Even at the start of this year, they would have been able to get that fight done. That would have been the payday. After that, it's Canelo Alvarez, isn't it? And seems like he's got that. Seems anyway. Do I think it would be... I think it's much of a muchness, really. I don't really see it as being that much more competitive. Maybe not even as competitive as Berlanga versus or Charlo. It's kind of on that level. But at least with Eubank Jr., he will come, he will give it, I would imagine, I don't think he'd really give Canelo too much to worry about. Canelo would counter him to death. But I think, when I look at Berlanga, I think that's fairly run-of-the-mill win for Canelo. Charlo could end up being a bit of a stinker. So yeah, I mean, in reality, what really more could you really say? In reality. What else do we have? We move on from that. Ryan Garcia has said that the Devin Haney fight did between 400,000 pay-per-view buys to 500,000 in the US. Now, I would imagine that is primarily down to Ryan Garcia. I would imagine that is largely down to him, because in the nicest way, Devin Haney, I'm going to see, do they have any of his pay-per-view buys on maybe Wikipedia or something like that, because they do tend to do Wikipedia for some of your pay-per-views. I mean, listen to this, right? When Devin Haney fought Lomachenko, that was on ESPN pay-per-view, and actually did 150,000 buys. That's actually not too bad, all things considered. Him against Prograis did 55,000 pay-per-view buys. 55,000. So that's a massive increase on what it was. 55,000 pay-per-view buys for his last one to now in the region of 400 to 500. But that largely is from Ryan Garcia, because if you look at Ryan Garcia, how many pay-per-views has Ryan Garcia did? I know the Tank Davis fight was pay-per-view, but how many pay-per-view buys has he done? 1.2 million for the Tank Davis. 1.2 million pay-per-view buys. That is pretty damn impressive. Right, and Tank Davis's pay-per-view buy rate is not necessarily that impressive. It's normally in the 200,000s. So Ryan Garcia, I mean, it is a bit. I don't want to have a go or come across too harsh on Devin Haney, but like when Ryan Garcia is there, he does bias. And with Devin Haney, he's not even coming close to breaking Tank Davis. You know, not even coming close to it. So Ryan Garcia, but what I will say, Ryan Garcia is obviously banned now until April next year. Haney, we don't know what he's going to do. He's given up to the WBC title at 140 pounds. Don't know what he's going to do. Don't know if Ryan Garcia is ever going to go near 140 pounds again. If they do that rematch next year, I would imagine you would look at those buy rates and you'd say it'll do even better. Because they'll have that, you know, Ryan Garcia coming back from his ban, Devin Haney's got his O back. What happens next? You know, so I think that might actually do very well next time around if in fact they fight each other next. Shakur Stevenson will be moving forward as a free agent following his fight this coming weekend. Shakur Stevenson is a tremendous fighter. He needs to put on a good performance in there on Saturday night. He left a lot of bad taste in people's mouths in that fight that he had there back in November. And I think he needs to put on a good performance. He is a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. But if he is stinking the joint out again, promoters like Eddie Hearn might think, okay, look, we can do something. But again, if fans are going to be booing and they're going to leave a fight saying, well, we got bored to death for 12 rounds. We were happier leaving than we were actually watching the fight. I don't know. And Shakur is a great fighter. He really is. But that style, safety first, slick defensive boxer, I don't think it has a place anymore. Like, it obviously has a place in terms of longevity, but in terms of making you a massive star, I don't think it's going to do it. Now, the WBC president, Mauricio Sulaiman, in his infinite wisdom, because Sulaiman is just such a smart individual, you won't pull the wool over his eye, really, really, really smart, has said that they would approve Manny Pacquiao fighting Mario Barros for the WBC welterweight world title at the age of 45. I do like the idea very much. I think Pacquiao can beat any fighter, be competitive with any fighter today. He hasn't won a fight since 2019. He hasn't fought since 2023, where he lost fairly convincingly to Yordenis Ugas. But he beats everyone now, 3 years later, at 45 years old. Give me a break, Sulaiman. Like, honestly, he really just... I keep saying it. If you're a young up-and-coming fighter and you see the absolute nonsense Sulaiman comes out with and wanting to give fighters who haven't fought in 3 years and are in their mid-40s, closer to 50, championship shots just like that, why would you want to pay sanction fees? Why would you want to go through all that just to get that? I don't get it. I really just don't get it. Anyway, on a more positive note, the main event for this card is not really what I want to be seeing, which is obviously Joyce versus Derek Chisora. But the undercard is actually looking quite good. And I have to say, I have to give Frank Warren credit. He hasn't been doing as many UK shows as he used to. Now, he still does the odd Friday fight night. And Eddie Hearn kind of sells some of those shows. Now, obviously, he does them on a Saturday, but he sells them as next-gen shows, which is kind of what they are for Frank Warren as well, to an extent. He's not really calling them that, but he does some of them, and to be honest with you, some of them are really good. Seems to have some good matchmaking on it. This one obviously is Chisora versus Joyce. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I don't much like the main event. I think Derek Chisora should be, you stick a fork in it. They should have stuck a fork in him after the Gerald Washington fight, where he really laboured to a bit. Gerald Washington's seen better days, and he was never that good to begin with. So I don't like Chisora's chances, and I really hope he doesn't take a beating in there against Joe Joyce. But the undercard, Dennis McCann versus Eno Belute 2, the rematch. The first fight was really good. Technical decision draw. Some people feel that Belute should have actually got the nod. First fight was really good. Let's go. I'm looking forward to that one. Ryan Garner versus Archie Sharp. You know, Archie Sharp came back. Oh, geez, was it back in April or May? In the York Hall, and he was dropped, I think it was in the first round, and he looked really poor. Archie Sharp hasn't looked great really for a couple of years, since probably 2019, but he's still going and trying, and let's see how he looks. Adam Hamid, I think is that the son of Prince Nazim? I don't think I've seen, if it is, I think I've seen him on the USEC Dubois card, and I don't think I've even heard him or seen him since. And he fought a guy who, I mean, literally, if you've ever seen his pro debut, if this is Prince Nazim's son, but even just on a side note, if you've ever seen his pro debut, that guy couldn't box. That guy literally looked like they got him from the crowd, stuck him in the ring and said, see what happens. That's just what it looked like. And also, I missed this, Moses Atelma versus Marius Vac. Now, that right there is an interesting one. Marius Vac fighting Moses Atelma in what, his 8th, 9th pro fight? Now, Atelma's been getting rid of a lot of these guys. Marius Vac may have the best chin in the heavyweight division. I mean, this is a man, yes, he's been stopped a couple of times, but normally he's stopped. He's been down. I think Arslanbek Makhmadov put him down, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was him. But normally he is durable as hell. He takes a great shot and he brings these guys rounds. So if Atelma is going in there, and if Atelma can maybe force a stoppage, because honestly, I think it might be a bit of a... Atelma's been getting rid of guys early a lot, and he's been really hurting guys. This will be a proper learning fight, because Marius Vac is a veteran. He's tough as nails, and it might be a shock, because Marius Vac was never fast. He's really slow. He's always been slow, even in his prime. Never been hard to hit. If Atelma is landing flush and Marius Vac isn't reacting, which I don't, to be honest with you, I don't expect him to react, to be honest. It's going to be interesting to see how Atelma actually gets to grips with that, because he is going to be in there with, again, one of the, I can't emphasize it enough, one of the toughest guys in the heavyweight division, bar none. In terms of fights this weekend, in the Copper Box in Stratford, East London, we have Johnny Fisher taking on Alan the Savage Babbage. Now, the rest of the card, you know, the likes of Reese Bellotti, Giorgio Visioni, John Hedges, I should say. Yeah, like, it is a next-gen show. So I'm kind of low-key intrigued by some of those fights. But to be honest with you, I really just want to see the main event, which is Johnny Fisher versus Alan Babbage, which I was watching Outmatch's video on this. And I was pretty much thinking the same thing. Car crash TV. Whether you like Johnny Fisher or not, and whether you like that whole kind of gimmick, for want of a better word, that him and his dad, more so his dad. I mean, like, honest to God, like, I just, Johnny Fisher Sr., I don't understand how anyone could enjoy watching some big fat guy eat himself to death and say bosh. I really don't understand where the appeal to that comes, and honestly, I really don't. I mean, honest to God, like, I don't understand that at all. I mean, the guy doesn't come across as anything, you know, any, like, you know, amazing personality. He just eats Chinese, says bosh, and he, like, honestly, he's eating himself to death. Seriously, I don't get it, but that's a side note. Johnny Fisher, Alan Babbage, I do like this fight. I haven't been massively impressed with Johnny Fisher. Now, I'm going to be honest. I've said it before. I've not been massively impressed with him. I've not looked at him ever really and thought, oh yeah, I see a lot of talent there. I haven't. Throughout the course of his career, I haven't really seen much. The Harry Armstrong fight, I remember that fight, and I remember him, Johnny Fisher, really going through the gears early on and needing quite a bit of time to recover. Not in the sense of he was badly hurt or anything like that, but he just really needed to get plenty of air back into his lungs after he launched an attack, didn't get rid of the guy, did eventually get rid of him. And yeah, Johnny Fisher I've just not been massively impressed with, to be honest with you. Saying that, Alan Babbage, I've always said about Alan Babbage that I love watching him, that he is one of my favourite fighters to watch. But even before he got knocked out by Rosansky, I said, this guy, as much as I love watching him, and I do, he is an accident waiting to happen. And that's exactly what happened when he fought Rosansky. Now, you could say it had been coming for a while. You know, I really started noticing Alan Babbage really when he fought Shondell Winters. Now, he fought Shondell Winters. I think that was on the undercard of... It was on a fight. I'm going to say it was on the undercard of Dylan White versus Alexander Povetkin 1. It was definitely in fight camp in Eddie Hearn's backyard. Now, Shondell Winters had just come off the back of a loss to Joseph Parker. Parker brought him a couple of rounds. Alan Babbage really just set about Shondell Winters, and he was hitting him with everything. I did kind of look at the punching power of Babbage, because he was hitting Winters so flush, but Winters was still taking the shots. And I was kind of like, I wonder how hard he really does hit. And he kind of fought area level fighters. You know, he's fought the likes of KO Kennedy, Tom Little, people like that. And yeah, they're really, I'm being generous saying the likes of Tom Little and those are area level fighters. They're probably not even that, right? But Babbage was getting through them. And then he kind of stepped up gradually against Eric Molina. And I want to say here against this David Spelmont guy. Now this guy, French heavyweight, 6'3", 33 years of age. He fought Alan Babbage in 2021. And he was 258 pounds in that fight. And I'm pretty sure that was the fight where Babbage got rocked pretty bad. And you kind of started seeing signs things were not amazing. Then he got dropped in his next fight. Then he got knocked out by Rosansky. Came back against Steve Robinson, who was really too tough for his own good. Babbage was a bit heavier than he normally is in that fight. But I still think Babbage looks to me like a fighter who's just over the hill. And Babbage has no defense. Like I said it from the get-go about Alan Babbage. You get a fighter who can counterpunch even a little bit, they'll light him up like a Christmas tree. They won't be able to miss him. And they'll put Alan Babbage away pretty damn easy. I've not been massively sold on Johnny Fisher, as I said. But goddamn, he should have the beating of Alan Babbage. What I will say about this fight, it is going to have a big knockout either way. So I look forward to seeing that. Now, Carl Froch has called on Anthony Joshua to meet him face to face to deal with their feud like men. It's schoolboy stuff. It sort of is. It's like plastic gangsters. It's pathetic, really. He messaged me again overnight, deleted 4 messages. I've had a barrage of abuse, but I don't mind meeting up and dealing with it like men. All right. Carl Froch, Anthony Joshua. Look, I've already done a video on this, and I've said there has to be... What I will say about Carl Froch is, though, Carl Froch is critical of a lot of fighters. He's been very critical of Tyson Fury. He's been very critical of Anthony Joshua. With Carl Froch, what I like is that his opinion tends to be his own for the most part. But with someone like Anthony Joshua, I find that he is just hypercritical of Anthony Joshua. Like, it's bizarre, really. And I know it stems from, some of it has to stem from the fact that Joshua got rid of Rob McCracken and didn't exactly sing his praises straight after it. And Carl Froch has always been very, big on Rob McCracken, saying he's a great trainer, this, that, and the other. Well, listen, I know Rob McCracken works with Team GB, but if he was such a great trainer, why is there not a list of professional fighters lining up to work with him? Seriously. It's like when Mike Tyson left Kevin Rooney, and you still have Tyson fanboys now saying, oh, Kevin Rooney, if Tyson never left him, this, that, and the other. I never bought that. I always felt Tyson was obviously beatable. Buster Douglas showed that, and he showed how you beat Mike Tyson. And if Mike Tyson needed Kevin Rooney so bad, why didn't he go back to Kevin Rooney after he came out of prison? Why didn't he go back to Kevin Rooney after he lost to Buster Douglas? But he didn't. And Carl Froch as well with Rob McCracken. I said in the video I did yesterday, he goes and says Joshua was gifted a world title, facing an easy touch in Charles Martin, but praises Rob McCracken at the same time for getting Anthony Joshua to a world title. But it's like, hang on a minute, you're praising Rob McCracken for bringing Joshua to a world title, but you're critiquing Joshua for winning a world title against an easy touch. So why are you praising Rob McCracken? At the end of the day, from what you're saying with regards Charles Martin and that title being gifted to him, he could have had Blind Man Bob in the corner saying, you see what you did there? Well, no, I didn't, and I'm sure you didn't either. And Joshua still would have won the fight. So why are you acting like Rob McCracken has done something amazing, but Joshua winning a world title against Charles Martin is a gift? Makes no sense. And I must do a career review on Carl Froch, because he keeps on talking about legacy. Well, Joshua's legacy is that he's a two-time heavyweight champion of the world. His legacy is that aside from Alexander Usyk, he has at least attempted to and has tried to beat the best in his era, and contemporaries, I should say, in his era. And he's beaten the likes of Joseph Parker, Dylan White. He's beaten Andy Ruiz. He's beaten Alexander Povetkin. He's beaten Vladimir Klitschko, Kubrat Pulev. It's a pretty damn good resume. It's not his fault he couldn't fight Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, because they were doing their thing for the best part of 3 years. It wasn't his fault. Fought Alexander Usyk twice, lost comprehensively both times. There was no debate in either win or either loss. But that's no shame. Alexander Usyk went on to be the best heavyweight of this generation, undisputed heavyweight champion, arguably the greatest cruiserweight of all time. It's no shame in losing to that. You know, it's honestly, it's like, you know, it's like Liverpool as a side. You know, when they've come, well, they didn't come second this season, but it's like Arsenal. Maybe Arsenal's a better example. The last two seasons coming second, you came second to Man City. I don't like Man City. I'm a United fan, but you can't deny Man City have a great team. So it's like coming second to them is not really, you know, it shows how good you guys are that you can run Man City to the last game of the season, you know? So there's no shame in that. So that's what I got to say with regards that. What else is there? What else is there? What else is there? I don't know. Is there much else? There's some Misfit stuff there, which we don't really talk too much about Misfits. The only time I ever talk about Misfit boxing is if it's kind of a fight that genuinely I do kind of get a little bit intrigued of, or I think it could be proper car crash TV. You know, like Boogie and Wings, when they had their little, whatever you want to call that. They had to fight, what was it, 90-second rounds? And at both guys, I mean, honestly, seriously, you know, they needed to reinforce that. God help that ring if one of them had fallen down. Oh, good Lord. that would have been some bang, all right. What else do we have? Anthony Joshua embracing the role of challenger ahead of Daniel Dubois title fight. Yeah, well, it would have been, if Dubois hadn't been elevated to full champion, it would have just been both guys challenging for an interim title. Dubois will have to enter second now. Joshua will have to enter first when the fight comes, because the champion is always the one who enters second. So Joshua really is the challenger. He absolutely is. What else do we have? Brandon. Do you know what? It's interesting. I think they're both American. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think Brandon Lee, where is the Californian? Frank Warren is now signing some American fighters. And this guy, Brandon Lee, I haven't seen much of him. I think I have heard the name. I haven't seen much. But Frank Warren has always been a guy. It's always been UK fighters. Well, for the most part anyway. I'm sure there are some exceptions there. But now he's branching in and signing American fighters. Is he looking to expand Queensbury? Like Frank Warren, since he's had that relationship with Turkey, it really, like, I honestly, like, you know, I said it in the Matchroom Queensbury show where Queensbury decimated Matchroom, absolutely decimated them, that Frank Warren in 2017, 2018, and even before that, I did kind of think the ship had sailed. And I thought that even if he can kind of bring Queensbury back, it's never going to be, he might be able to bring it back to something respectable, but it's never going to be able to really compete with, you know, Matchroom, who were on Sky at the time. I didn't think that would ever happen. And now you look at Queensbury and you're just like, whoa, he hasn't just brought it back. I mean, he has, like, Matchroom Queensbury 5v5. I mean, look at that. And he's building for the future, Frank is. So it really is pretty damn impressive. Yeah, I seen Zach Parker and Jack Arnfield to fight on the Magnificent 7 show in July. God, I haven't seen Jack Arnfield fight in years. I really haven't seen him fight in years. Michael Conlon salutes the runners who gave him inner peace ahead of his final roll of the dice. Yeah, I heard Conlon is planning to come back. Listen, I wish him well. I do. I wish Michael Conlon well. I hope he can prove me wrong and do something, you know, this time around. He's had three really rolls of the dice, but 2 rolls of the dice in terms of world title fights. He came short in both of them. And obviously, last time out, he fought Jordan Gill. I thought Michael Conlon would win that fight, to be honest with you, and he looked absolutely shocking. He really did. Jordan Gill went on to subsequently lose his next fight. So, where does that leave Michael Conlon? I don't know how much he has left in the tank. I wish him well on his comeback. Let's see how he does. He wanted to win a world title. You know, stranger things have happened. I don't necessarily think it will, but you never know. So I think that's pretty much it. I am going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Everything I talked about in this video, Eubank versus Canelo, lads, first and foremost, and we'll end it with that. What do you guys think of that? Let me know in the comments. Hope you liked it, people. Smash the like button. Peace.